which I understand is very uncommon. It also shows how they are able to basically bring whole villages into their ideology using violence. And in one clip, there is a tribunal where they exert their justice. How do these tribunals work?
Well, in order to control the people, when Boko Haram captures a place and they want to bring people in line, they will hold these kind of tribunals and they will force everybody from the village or the town to attend the tribunals. They will bring people they are accusing, whether they are drug users or drug sellers according to them. They will bring them to these tribunals and they will read out a statement that you are guilty of this or guilty of that. Do you accept your guilt? Well, if you accept it, fine, you just go and lay down and get killed.
They do something similar with young boys and men who they conscript in the fighting. You have a video that is unusual in that it shows a Boko Haram leader basically getting everyone to gear up to fight. Let's watch that.
Allah says the best of the martyrs are those that fight in the front. They are the ones who do not turn back until they are killed.
When Boko Haram started in 2009, initially their membership were made up of the original followers of the founder of Boko Haram. But when they started capturing territory, they started conscripting people.
There is video of a failed attack, essentially.
I've made a statement on this channel before that we were going to confront fascists of every color, every creed. Christians, Muslims, black, white, Asian, you name it. So, today, we're going to examine the rise of Nigerian Nazis. Have you not heard about the Nigerian Nazis? Well, you've probably heard the right-wing narrative about Boko Haram, which is a branch of the Islamic State terror organization. But you probably never heard them referred to as Nigerian Nazis before. I think the importance of using that label to distinguish a group is to give the listener an idea of what the end goal of a group is. I think that using the word Nazi, as much as some right-wing douchebags bitch about it because it hits too close to home for them, is that it's a simple shorthand to the average listener of your political speech to outline the arc of a vanguard within a movement of political violence like this. No, Boko Haram are not rebels in any form of legitimate way. No, they are not engaging in what anarchists would call righteous revolutionary violence. No. The Boko Haram movement started off like any fascist movement. It was born out of a lot of long-standing post-colonial tension within Nigeria between Christians and Muslims, particularly Muslims who were obsessed with implementing Sharia law and Sharia courts, which I do not support. The only dissent that I make when talking about Sharia is this sort of irrational hysteria that Sharia is an impending threat to Western civilization. That doesn't address the actual problem, which is that Sharia is a existential threat, an existing threat to the Muslim world, to the civilized Muslim world. It is not fucking Germany or England or Sweden that has to worry about Muslim death squads coming and holding brutal tribunals where people are shot and dismembered and sentenced to death for being infidels. That's for Muslim nations in the East and on the African continent to worry about, while we kick, cry, and scream about how Muslims are a threat to white culture. White European culture. I'm gonna spell out what people mean when they say Western, by basically saying that European culture is meant to be white culture. I'm not sure that there are any European nations that are black that I'm aware of, but it seems very unlikely. So, back on topic. Boko Haram started off like any other fascist movement. Before they became violent, they were active for 7 years. And the existing Nigerian government was warned about the radicalization of this group. They were warned that this group was stockpiling weapons. Does that sound familiar to you, Americans? Does that sound familiar about a group of fucking religious nutjobs stockpiling weapons to... American fascism is like any other form of fascism, including the Nazis. A lot of what gets discounted from the story of Nazi Germany is that the Reich, the German fascist movement, was very much so premised on a relationship with Catholicism and the Catholic Church. So it was as much a religious, theocratic revolution as it was an ethnic cleansing campaign. And that's what's happening with Boko Haram. Boko Haram is a theocratic fascist insurgency. What they intend to do, and especially since they transformed their peaceful protest into revolutionary, probably, I'm trying to think of an appropriate word. Terrorism has been so painted by neoconservatives that I can barely use it without it being politically loaded. But basically, what went from advocating for Sharia to killing for Sharia for Boko Haram is the danger that any nation faces when they don't pay attention to radicalized elements forming in their midst. Boko Haram started by advocating violence before they engaged in it. And if the Nigerian government had taken proper action to confront this kind of dangerous speech, they would not be up shit creek trying to confront Boko Haram's horrifying campaign of ethnic cleansing or religious cleansing, however you want to call it, and the atrocities that they're committing in the name of establishing this caliphate, which has a history in that part of the world. The caliphate is sort of, it's the same thing as a Reich. A Reich is a big white nation. That was the dream of those Nazis. The Nigerian Nazis have the same fucking dream, and they're in league with ISIL to create a specific kind of Muslim based, Islamic fascist state that will spread its gospel bullet by bullet all over the world. So the West can't just stand by and play with immigration bans to cover its own ass. The West gives all this fucking money to Israel to defend itself. You know, the fascist government, Likud, in the nation of Israel. I'm not implying that all Israeli people are fascists, but the right-wing government in Israel has some pretty Nazi shit going on. So if we can give them all that money and military support to defend themselves, then I think that there should be more under the Muslim killer Trump. I don't think that his military would end up taking much shit for helping the Nigerians resolve Boko Haram before Nigeria becomes part of a giant ethno-state, a caliphate where women are brutalized and raped and infidels are tortured and subjected to public execution. The struggle against fascism is about international solidarity. So the West needs to stop worrying about whether Muslims are coming here to establish an Islamic state and need to actually get where people need help to send boots on the ground, and not in the Bush way, but send equipment, send resources to this country in crisis. Because if fucking ISIS gets quote-unquote legitimate power like Hezbollah did, this problem is going to get way worse. And when all of these disparate caliphate-oriented terror groups consolidate, because they are consolidating little by little, Al-Qaeda with ISIS, ISIS with Boko Haram, the domino effect is going to create one giant problem for the West. Then you're going to have to worry about more than whether or not your migrants and refugees are provocateurs. You're going to have to contend with an actual Islamo-fascist army. Keep your eye on the prize.